First, I thank you for organizing this event and for all that you do. Many of you work hard every day, in a very concrete way, supporting opposition and media, keeping the flame of freedom alive in dark and difficult times. Your job has not become any easier, but it is more important than ever. Today, on International Democracy Day, let me give you some personal reflections. More than 30 years ago, the world turned upside down, in a good way. The Berlin Wall fell down. Soviet oppression disappeared. My country, Lithuania, became independent. Central and Eastern Europe were free. In time, we joined the European Union and NATO. Democracy and European integration have been a massive success, bringing freedom, rule of law, and unprecedented prosperity. When the Soviet Empire collapsed, democracy started to move from the west to the east into the territory of the former empire, and that created the success of new democratic countries. But this journey of democracy into post-imperial territories is still not finished. Plenty of job to do. In countries where democracy did not prevail, like Belarus, like Russia, there we see dictatorship, corruption, poverty. The contrast is striking and obvious. This is why Putin hates the European Union, hates democracy, and undermines our democracies at every step. Because the success of Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, the success of Central Europe, the success of our democracy reminds people in Russia, reminds people everywhere in the Kremlin's shadow, there is a better way than the Putin way. Putin is afraid of the Russian people, that they can be inspired by the success of democracies in the neighborhood, including by the success of Ukraine. And this is also why Putin invaded Ukraine. 3 years ago, the world also turned upside down, but in a bad way, a terrible way. Putin invaded Ukraine because Ukraine's success is Putin's failure. A democratic Ukraine, an European Ukraine, a successful Ukraine shows Russians. You can have that too. The success of Ukraine with its inspirational power to ordinary Russians is the biggest threat to the survival of the dictatorial Putin regime. That is why Putin started the war. That is why Putin continues the war and why Putin is clearly not interested in peace. So first, we must defend ourselves, defend Europe, defend democracy. In order to defend democracy, we need to build our defense capabilities. That is what we are doing now. But also we need to do everything to destroy Putin's capabilities to wage a war against democracies, including against us. We need to diminish Russia's material capabilities for aggression. That is why we are introducing economic sanctions. But also we need to diminish Putin's ideological and political capabilities to wage a war against our democracies. In order to achieve the last purpose, we need to have clear strategies for two goals. A. Russia's people need to be convinced that they would have much better perspective of a normal life if Russia, without Putin, would abandon its aggressive policies towards its neighbors, including Ukraine. And B. The European Union needs to create conditions for the success of Ukraine through peace in Ukraine and its integration with the European Union. That is why I want to stress again, we need to bring truth and objective information to the Russian people that the normal future of Russia is stolen from them by the aggressive Putin's regime, and we must support Ukraine and the future of its success. Ukraine is the only democracy in Europe or worldwide forced to fight for its freedom. The only democracy paying the biggest price we can imagine for freedom, the lives of their sons and daughters. And this is why we must support Ukraine. When Ukraine defends its democracy, they defend also our democracy. And the success of Ukraine in defending their democracy and building its economical success in the European family will have major inspirational power in neighboring Russia or Belarus. Ukrainian success is our strategic goal, and we have the power to create it. And that is our most important long-term strategic goal, because that is how the gates for transformation in the autocratic east of the European continent can be opened. And that is how we can implement our major dream to live in Europe, whole, free, and at peace. Democracy in the whole of Europe is the only way towards sustainable peace on the European continent. History shows that democracy is easy to lose, but hard to regain. So today, on the International Day of Democracy, I am glad we can count on you to do what it takes to defend our democracy and to return democracy to Europeans from whom democracy has been stolen.